Awesome. Thank you so much for your patience. I'm going to go ahead and get started. So sorry about the delay. My name is Amaret Quintanilla. I am the event training coordinator with the West Business Development Center. And today, we are starting our very first hashtag webinar Wednesday series, where we're going to share with you guys a new webinar each Wednesday covering a topic of business. And today we're going to kick it off with our CEO, Marianne Petrillo, and she's going to cover what is a hashtag. So before we get started, I wanted to let you know this webinar is brought to you by the West Business Development Center. We are a federally funded nonprofit organization that provides free one-on-one business advising to Lake and Mendocino County residents. And we are the host of the Women's Business Center, as well as the host of the, the Northern California SBDC. And we have other grants that help us provide free training and free advising to you guys through the Governor's Office of Economic Development as well. So if you haven't heard from us, or if you would like to learn more about the West Center, you can visit our website below on the screen, www.westcenter.org. I'm going to go ahead and hand this over to Marianne today to get started, and I'm actually going to change this over.
So will mine not?
You're actually, yeah, you can do that, but I'm going to have my sound on, so you're going to leave your sound off because we're having technical issues, so sorry about that. All right, I'm going to go off now. Okay, there you go.
Hi, everyone. I'm so glad you're able to join our very first of the Webinar Wednesday series. This is going to be a new endeavor for us here at West Center. We really like to have these kind of short, concise topics because we know how challenging it is to be a small business owner, and there's just so much information coming to you so often about so many different things that you need to do for your business to be successful in today's new economy. So this is one of many upcoming webinars. I hope you stay tuned and stay close to the work that we're doing. And we'd also love to hear information from you about what it is you would like to hear from in future presentations. So I'm going to double check the chat window. It looks now that for some, they are not seeing the audio. Not seeing the visuals on the screen. So I think Everett, maybe pull up your.
So we're actually sharing Marianne's screen right now. So you should be seeing a presentation if it comes up for you. If not, then maybe close out and rejoin again to bring it back up. But you should be seeing a presentation with today's presenter on there. And if you cannot do that, just join us again, rejoin, and it will come up for you and join with your audio.
In the lower corner, if you scroll down on your screen, it'll see chat. If you click on the chat and just type in and let us know that you could see the visuals, that would be great.
Yes, okay, great.
Okay.
Thank you so much.
Okay, so the first thing I want to start out today talking about, everything that I'm going to be telling you about best practices for different nomenclature that's used for social media is really for the most important thing that business owners need in this kind of new world is how to get found. I'll talk a little bit about the communication prism in a minute, but really there are three primary platforms that a majority, not all, but a majority of small businesses use. Google My Business, Yelp, and Facebook are kind of far and away the most active platforms generally for small businesses to get found. So if you are not on one or all of those, you may want to consider finding out more, working with one of our business advisors, working with our office to help you have more of a presence on one of these platforms. And probably on a future webinar, we'll be talking or going in depth on each one of these. But for today, I want to kick off our conversation about social media nomenclature and try to put into perspective a little bit about what is going on in this, interesting world of communication that we live in. This communication prism was a concept that was first introduced by a gentleman named Brian Solis. And Brian is one of those digital analyst futurists, trying to help business and industry think about the new world of communication for their business. And what's interesting about this is that was his first pass at what it looked like to try to get your information out so that people would listen to you or that you would be able to listen to others. Now, this was probably done, I'm not accurate on the date, maybe 4 or 5 years ago. I know we used it a lot in former companies that I worked with. But to give you an idea about how it has exploded, this is what it is currently as of like last year. This was one of the new graphics that they put out. So what this is showing you essentially is just how hard it is today for a small business owner to try to get their information out to multiple people. The good thing is there's lots of ways to do it. The bad thing is there's lots of ways to do it. So you have to know a lot more about who you're targeting, what that target is using as they're listening, what that target is using for their own information, how they're searching for things. So, I know for a novice, sometimes this is feels very overwhelming because it is a lot to take in. But if you as a small business owner know your audience and really can understand who they are and their behavioral patterns, you could be very selective in who and how you where you put your message out into the internet and how you talk to others online. But for today, what I'm going to do is just go through 5 or 6 just core tools, signatures, ways in which you are going to talk about yourself as you're doing more investigation in ways to get your business known into that communication prism.
Did you want to do a poll?
Yeah.
Okay.
Amara just suggested that we do a poll. So before I go into the definitions of some of these things, Amara,
which one do you want to do, the social media one?
Sure. Okay. So we're going to do a poll, which Amarette's going to launch here. And you can see on the screen, and it'd just be interesting to see.
Okay, so we have a poll in progress right now. It should appear on your screen. And if you are joining by phone, you might not be able to see it. But if you can, we have 2 questions. Are you using social media for your business now? And if so, what social media platforms are you using? It'd just be interesting to see how what platforms are being utilized right now by people. And awesome. Thank you so much for responding. We're going to give it just like a couple more seconds to get some last minute people. And then I will share the results with you guys. Okay. And I think that's good. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and share these results. Okay, so it looks like 89% said yes, and then 1% said they're about to start. And most people are using Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, and a little bit less on Twitter and others. So interesting.
I'd love to know, please put in the chat for those of you who said other, what other types of social channels might you be using? But it doesn't surprise me. Facebook is far and away the most prevalently used social channel, but it is not the only one, and Instagram is gaining. But regardless of what you use, terminology is important and understanding nomenclature is important. So the first one that I have called up on the screen here today is a handle and what a handle refers to. A handle is essentially your name. It's your name in a social media environment. People have used very funny and irreverent handles for many things and many circumstances. Businesses use their full long name that could consist of 6 words for their handle. It is something that I would say, as far as a best practice goes, when you are creating a handle for your business, is try to keep it short, concise, and unique. I think these are, it's hard to come by, but it's worth taking the time. You need to do your own research about, if you come up with a name or a terminology or something, to see if there's not one that already exists out there. But once you determine that for your business or your business's identity, be consistent. Don't mix it with something else. Don't, you know, we all come to social media at different points in our learning curve and different points of our business development. So even if you're coming in the middle and you've used it one way and now you're changing it another way, just really try to, once you make that crossover to what you're going to use as your handle, be consistent in everything, in every place. And so you might have to go back over previous places where you've used it and swap it out for your new handle. So just be consistent, be professional, and be concise in your handle. That becomes very important. The hashtag that we all dearly know and love and have heard that terminology, one of the best ways that I think about a hashtag is it's a conversation. Remember that conversation prism that I showed you with all of those different platforms and all of those different ways to connect? That's why you're using a hashtag, because if somebody is going to have a conversation on a particular topic, like shoes, you want to get into that topic if what you're selling either is shoes, has to do with shoes, or you have a good idea about shoes. You want to be in that conversation wherever it may be. And this is relevant whether it's words or whether it's photographs. The hashtag tells people that this is where it's happening. This is where this topic of conversation is happening. Now, when you're creating a social post that you're going to use your hashtag in, before you use it, do some research. Find out what's going on in that hashtag. Search it out yourself. You had an idea for, blue pens, or something, or some other topic. Look it up and see what's happening in that conversation.
Can I add something?
Yes, please do.
I was going to say, now on Instagram, you can even follow a hashtag.
That's right.
So if you use a hashtag that is about a certain topic, like shoes, for example, and you follow that, then even if you don't follow your specific person that, or like your account, if this person's not following you, they can still see your image and your post if you use the hashtag. So it's another way to get seen by others who are following a certain hashtag.
Great, thanks, Emily.
Mm-hmm.
Please jump in at any
No,
point.
yeah.
I mean, this is these sound like simple topics and simple terms, but it really is different for everybody how they're using these things. What we're trying to show here is just some of the best practices, because the hashtags is what's really going to make your content more discoverable in that sea of voices. And so you want to be thinking very smartly about how and where and when you're using a hashtag. If you do research and stuff, there are some rules that they say, things like don't use so many hashtags in a Facebook post, but use lots of hashtags in an Instagram post. It's not to say that one is wrong or right. It's just the way the trend is happening right now. And so there are places in different social channels that you use a hashtag more appropriately. Do you have a question?
Oh, we do have a question.
Okay.
Is it true that it is best to limit the amount of hashtags to 6 to 8 on a post? Also, is it best to go for a mid-range popular hashtag rather than one that has millions? So we're going to answer this live. So thank you for your question.
So yes, thank you for that question. So as I just mentioned, the norm, and again, it's not a hard and fast rule, but you would really limit your hashtag use in Facebook. It's just not commonly used, but it is commonly used in Instagram. Mm-hmm. So it's, so everything in between. So you have Facebook, the fewest hashtags, Instagram, probably the most. Mm-hmm. And then, LinkedIn, Pinterest, Twitter, of course, uses it.
A small amount of hashtags. For your question specifically for Instagram, some advisors and I recommend to use at least definitely 6 to 8, maybe even around 10, and to use some that are varying. So yes, get some that are in the millions range that maybe people are following it, like couple million, and then use some that are maybe lower on that, so that you're getting a good amount of range in that. That's one of our advisors, Baki. He told me that you want to have some higher level hashtags, and you also want to have some lower level hashtags, but and then you could also create your own hashtag, and that is something that could go with branding. You could brand your own. So there's different ways to do it. There's no one yes or no way. You would just have to start using them and then track how they are working for you.
There's another part to that question.
Oh, and we have another question. Okay. I share my Insta posts to Facebook. Okay, thank you. Yes, I have a few. Okay, awesome. Thank you.
Okay, so tagging. Tagging is a way that to identify a person or business in a post, a photograph, or any kind of statement. I think the important thing here with tagging is, again, this is a way we communicate in that sea of platforms. I have someone who did some great work for me in a small business for a framing store, and I love that. I want to make sure that that person knows. So when I go to a social post, I may tag that framing store and say, this is a great place. I loved this company. And you tag that person in the photograph. So even if it's a photograph, if I put a photograph of the picture that was framed, let's say, I would tag it as that store's name. So it's a way to let people know that you liked what they did or that you worked with them. And it also is a way for you as the business owner to encourage people to use tagging when they are going out and talking in a social environment about them. Again, your handle is important. You can give them information. It's nice to have little cards put out, to let people know, hey, this is my handle, here's my website. You always want to give people who are your customers or individuals who are your potential customers, you always want to give them a way in which they could engage with you or your business. For some people, the person themselves are the business. For other people, their business name is what you want them to be recognized. But that's what tagging, is really all about.
And just to help add on to that, if you notice the image that Marianne added on here, which is great, I was going to say to tag someone in a post, you would start your post like on the screen. And then when you want to tag someone, you would start by using the @ symbol. So you start typing @ and then what their name or their business name is, and then it should pull it up in the little drop-down box as shown on the image, and then you click it, and then it will like highlight it so that it shows that it's linking to that account or that business. And that is how you would actually physically do it. Same with Instagram and Facebook. You would type in the @ and then type in the name, and no spaces, @ and then start.
There's a question here about how do I check out a hashtag?
Okay, yeah. So usually you're going to check out hashtags on Instagram. I'm not sure if there's a way for you to search on Facebook, but I know on Twitter. Okay, well, you might want to share how to do that. But on Instagram, you would go into your search function and type in whatever you're going to look up. So if you want to, type in #shoes, so you would type that into your search, and then it will come up with a couple different options. They search for accounts, people, and tags. So you would want to look at the tag tab that pulls up, and then you can see how many at the top of this one. Whenever you click that, it will come up on the top that says like how many people follow that hashtag. So you can see what the range is on that, like how many people are actually following it and seeing it. And then you could scroll down and it shows people who use that hashtag and different things like that. And on Twitter,
on Twitter is the same
Same
similar. Thing? But on Twitter, one interesting thing is that you can see what's trending. So that also becomes really important because, if it's relevant to your business, you want to be where everybody else is at the time. So something could be trending, whatever it may be, and sometimes it's obviously news related, but it could be business related or something to do with your business, and you want to be seen as a thought leader around a particular topic. You can check out on Twitter, what is trending at the moment.
Would you just go to like a search? Or
yeah, and it usually says it right on the side, so trending topics, and then you can click on that.
Nice.
Or you can do the same thing as Emma just said, is just type that into the Twitter
search function. Awesome.
SEO. Now, we have had many workshops on this, so I'm keeping this very small and concise because I really do want to encourage you, and we have many good advisors who can advise people on this particular topic in depth. But at its essence, and again, this is just to explain nomenclature, SEO is search engine optimization. So basically what that means is we all know, because we live in an age now where if we don't know the answer to something, we just go out there onto Google and we say, what does blah, blah, blah mean? We're always searching for different things. Now, most people use Google. It's not the only search engine out there. And so what you're trying to do is your business is trying to come up in the search engine as high as possible within 1, 2, or 3 pages of search. So you're really trying to boost your website or boost your platform so that it can come up high in a search engine. Optimizing your website requires a lot of different things working together. Keywords is one of the most important things, and I'm going to talk a little bit about that. Do you want to do another poll?
You want to do the Google My Business poll? Okay. I'm going to bring up another poll.
And you guys can also be asking questions in the chat.
Yeah, if you want to ask any questions. I'm going to launch the poll right now and give y'all a couple seconds. So if you see the poll come up on your screen, it has one question that says, do you utilize Google My Business? And you can say yes, no, or what is that? And I will be sharing the results in a couple seconds. And then if we have, okay, so Hillary says, so challenged by SEO. Oh, SEO. Yes, it is challenging, but we do have a lot of really great advisors that can help with that. So if you want to reach out to us, we can definitely connect you. I think one of them might be on the webinar today too. How do I see the polls? So the polls should come up automatically on your screen. Sometimes everyone's computer might be a little different. It should pop up just on your screen and you should be able to. If not, you can answer the question in the chat box and we will include you. So the question is, do you utilize Google My Business?
So one thing I want to say about SEO, because I know that feels very daunting because you have to think of all these different things simultaneously. Don't despair. Doing a little bit is better than doing nothing. Being more conscious of it as you're thinking about your website is better than doing nothing. You want to try to understand these things. And, as I say, we do have advisors on these topics who could really go in depth with you on it. But then, take time to look at some things online, take time to read things. Eventually it becomes sort of second nature, but for a while it is a little bit overwhelming because you do have to be conscious of so many things moving simultaneously within your outreach.
Okay, so we had 57% say yes, 29% said no, and only one said, what is that?
So Google My Business is a platform that Google has that allows you, and it's free, to put all of your business information on. So let me give you an example, and this is always my favorite example. So I am online at my favorite coffee shop that also sells, lunch items, and there's a long line, and it's a tourist town. So there's a family of 4 in front of me, and they're waiting on this long line. They have, of course, 2 teenagers in their group, and everybody is now looking down at their phone while they're waiting to get to the front of the line. And of course, the 2 teenagers searched for what was the closest place that sold hamburgers in the shortest amount of time. And they looked at their parents and they said, we can go next door and get a hamburger. And their parents said, okay. And they left, right? This is where it just happens so quickly. And because they looked up, Google My Business told them right away what was close by, what was in proximity, what hours you were open, everything. And it was just like instantaneous. And, a map that says I could walk 200 feet to the next place, and this is what they have. It's worth the time and energy to make your Google My Business profile be as fully comprehensive as possible. And go so far as to stay on top of it. So if you're closed during the holidays, that needs to come up. If you're open on special occasions, that needs to come up. Because this is where people will go to find you, especially if you're a small business that relies on walk-in clientele or people who are outside of the area trying to find you. There's a lot more that can be done around geo-targeting and other things, but Google My Business is one platform that really does serve a good purpose. You can put photographs on there, you can put photographs of your food or your product or whatever, and it really is where people go right away.
Yes, and I would just go off of that. It's really, really important for physical brick and mortar locations if you're wanting to get found by people visiting or, like she said, foot traffic. But also if you're just a business, it helps with, SEO and finding you. And we have a comment from Marinella, who is our SEO and marketing advisor. She says Google My Business is local SEO, which is different from organic SEO. So there's definitely some variations between the SEO, and we will get into that a little bit more in another workshop or webinar. But yes, just know that there's some differences there. Can customers leave reviews on Google? Yes. So they can, and it's really recommended to ask them to leave reviews on there, because I don't know, when I look for stuff, I always look at the reviews. Wherever I'm going, if it's a coffee shop, if it's a business, I always look at the reviews to see, at least what somebody says, and that's just like my kind of go-to. So I would definitely recommend that.
Again, it's another way of communicating in today's world. All of these little things do add to each other. So, you're not going to be able to do maybe everything all at the same time, but really take the time to make sure that where you are located in different places on the internet is accurate. Make sure that it's comprehensive. I'm astounded how many restaurants forget to put their address, forget to put their phone number. I mean, I know it sounds like obvious, and I know sometimes you start these things and then you step away and maybe it didn't get complete, but it's really, it's the way people are deciding where to go, what to do, what to buy, what questions to ask. So it's worth the time to use the right nomenclature and fill in some of these platforms that really are available and free. There was a comment here, Bing now has places. I mean, I use Google My Business as an example because, they're the one that has the biggest reach, just like Facebook has the biggest reach. But it's not to say you shouldn't be in other places either. You should be everywhere, or as many as you are have a target to be at.
Yeah.
So keywords and SEO work together, and keywords are those words or phrases that people use when searching for information using a search engine. So again, it's a process of thinking about how people would find you. If you're a Thai restaurant, yes, you can think of Thai restaurant and type that in, or Thai restaurant near me, but you may think of a certain food dish, or you may think of a certain, term or something that most people would search on, and then you want to make sure that you're using that word or phrase within the confines of your website. And again, there's ways to embed it into your website itself, into meta tags and stuff, but that's
for another
That's
webinar. For another webinar.
I'll let Mary know. So this again is it's understanding how words are used and how they're picked up in the search engine. So that becomes also important. Really for them, again, back to why is this important? Well, it's how we get found. This is my last slide here. Again, what I went over with you right now is just high-level nomenclature for social media, and again, why in that conversation prism it's important to have some of these things really clarified. But you may have a sense of like, why is that important, and why do I have to do that? And, are people really out there? People are. I mean, the social media usage has grown exponentially, whether it's to buy stuff, whether it's to go to an attraction, whether it's to find thought leaders and, follow people. I mean, we can do another whole one, and perhaps we will, on just influencers and what influencers mean and how you want to work with influencers. But I mean, look at these numbers, 2.4 billion or 330 million. I mean, these are a lot of people who are out there using various social media tools. You as a business owner have to be thoughtful about which ones are right for your audience, but make no mistake, you do need to understand your audience. So just because you use Facebook, and you might use it a lot, and you want to make sure that that's where your audience is also using it. You may find that your audience is using more Instagram. I mean, so if there's some way to understand what your audience and what your clients are using, that's where you want to spend your time and energy, is experimenting and understanding what kind of platforms they're going to, so that you look the best you can look on those platforms.
For example, if your audience you're targeting millennials, a lot of millennials use Instagram and YouTube and less on Facebook now. So you want to kind of look into what, like she said, what your audience is using. And maybe if you know a couple of them, ask them, what are you using, or if your audience is younger, TikTok is a new one that's coming out. So definitely do some research on your audience and how and where they are.
So the one in the question was on the platform on the bottom right, that's Reddit.
And this one is WhatsApp? Oh, yeah.
It's not the Reddit. Reddit is, how could you explain Reddit?
I actually don't use Reddit.
It's interesting.
I've heard of it, but I haven't used it.
Reddit is really just a communications, I don't say it's news.
I was going to say, isn't it like news or something?
It's not
like
news, but it is like a communications platform. You can look it up. There's an amazing amount of people who use Reddit, but it runs the gamut from, the sublime to the ridiculous. I mean, it goes, it has like everything in there. And I will say that it's probably one, if you are really in a business that it's important to understand what current trends are, you might want to, keep your eye on Reddit, because, Grumpy Cat would be on Reddit. Right?
Yeah.
That was like a trend.
So trending things.
A trending thing.
Okay.
Yeah, a thing.
Okay.
Like
that makes sense.
And again, it's everything in between.
So real quick, I just wanted to maybe run through all of these so everyone knows. So from top left, we have Facebook, and then I'm going to go from left to right. So we have next is YouTube. The next one, let me say what are each one. So Facebook, I feel like everyone knows what Facebook is. It's a way to connect with people and also businesses. YouTube is mainly for videos. A lot of people post videos of their business, or maybe vlogs, which is like a video diary. And that is the red one in the top center. Then the next one is Instagram. Many of you might have already heard. It's a very visual platform to post pictures and captions. And also check out hashtags there. That's a very popular place. And then going down with the little bird, that is Twitter. That is for businesses, but also for it's very political nowadays and very informational. So if you're into news headlines, that's where you're going to find a lot of that content. And that has a very limited amount of space that you post texts and images. And then the next one over is LinkedIn. That is a business and professional connection place where you would meet other business professionals or business and maybe find jobs. If you're a service-based business or in a professional space, we highly encourage you to use this platform, LinkedIn. Pinterest, if you haven't heard of that, that is a kind of, how would you describe Pinterest? It's like a hobby kind of place where you put your visuals and also like different kinds of crafts and.
So I want to say a note about Pinterest, because I think that hobby and do-it-yourself kind of mentality was the foundation.
That's what it started off, but it's like totally evolved.
It's evolved now, and it's much more actually used for a lot of businesses to promote. So one of the things you might see is like wedding photos, right? And so everybody's like trying to do their wedding in a perfect way. Well, what happens is companies who specialize in wedding venue type things, they use Pinterest as the way to set up these shots so that people can come to them to use their services. And it says here that 175 billion pins are created. I
Yeah.
mean, that's a lot, you know, it's become really used as a business tool.
And people use it as like mood boards or vision boards, or you can create a board and put images on and create your own kind of thing. If you're, you know, decorating a room, you can have a board for that. So I would say it's a mix of creative and a way to market also to that
probably skewed more towards female usage,
I would say too.
Not exclusively, but skewed that way.
Mm-hmm. And we'll get to your questions and comments in just a second. Let me finish these last row so everyone knows. I feel like these are the least common, but the yellow one is Snapchat. That one is you send personal messages and videos to each other, and they disappear within like a couple of seconds of opening it. So you open a message, see it, and then it kind of disappears. That's why it's a ghost as the symbol, because it's like, you know, it comes and then it goes away. There are ads, but I don't really see a lot of them happening. I mean, we might want to get some more information on that. But the next one over is, I believe, WhatsApp. And that is just another communication device. You can text and call people for free using the internet if you have a WhatsApp account. So you go to WhatsApp, you download the app, and then if you are in Wi-Fi range, you can call somebody through that, or you can text somebody. It's a way to communicate if you don't have like a phone line. So that's another way. And then the last one was Reddit, which
and Reddit. One of the things with Reddit is that there is this network of communities. So if you like a certain topic, they tend to group them together. So, you know, it's something to, I think, keep an eye on and see if there's something
That's
there.
a good point. Like if you're in photography and you're wanting to meet other photographers, there's probably a group, kind of like a Facebook group, but it's on Reddit where they communicate and they have a community. So awesome. Do you want to get to some
Actually, no, I'm appreciating. So if you are on chat, I thank you, Lisa and Kathleen and Marianella. You know, no one person knows everything about social media. I am positive of that fact. So we all learn from each other, and it's good to ask questions and really communicate to colleagues and friends about how they're using social media tools and channels and what they're doing. You know, so thank you for sharing some of those things. They're all accurate that are in the chat there.
Some of them might not be able to be seen because they're all panelists, so I'm going to let everyone know. So one of them says Pinterest, you can now have buyable pins. Pinterest is a lifestyle collection. Pinterest equals evergreen content, helps drive traffic back to your site. And then another comment was Reddit aggregates threads and communities. So yes, all of those are excellent. And I also wanted to address a question we had in our question box. Can you tell us the link for the Moz tool on the slide? So I'm going to send out these slides after we get done with the presentation via email in PDF form, and then I'm going to have the links in the email so that you can click them.
So I just wanted to say thank you all for being on this webinar today. I'm sorry that we had a little slow start with the audio, but we're getting better every time.
Yes.
We are going to try to do these every Wednesday. At least for a while. The next one is going to be Discover Your Sales Process with Rachel Clark on March 11th.
Yes.
So I hope you join us. But for those of you who are in and around the Mendocino County area, we do have live workshops as well coming up, both in Fort Bragg and in Ukiah. So again, all of these can be found on our website at westcenter.org. Under workshops and in the calendar. So please do sign up and let us know that you'd be interested in coming. And is there an email where they can send you suggestions?
Yeah, you can type your suggestions in the chat box, or you can email me at events@westcenter.org. And then but right before we go, I'm also going to launch one more poll that is going to appear on your screen. And this is for the webinar today to get some feedback. So I think we have 4 questions asking you about the webinar today, and we really appreciate your input and feedback as we're constantly trying to improve our services and our offerings to you guys. So if you could fill out the poll that is on your screen, it will just appear like the other polls, and you just click on what the answers are. And so again, thank you so much for joining us today. If you have, let me go to the next slide here. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out to us via email or on our website or phone. Our phone number is listed. We have 2 locations, one in Fort Bragg and one in Ukiah. And if you have any, any topics you'd be interested in learning, please put them in the chat box or email me. We'd be happy to develop something that fits your needs. We have one comment: thank you for the seminar. I think I will use Instagram, Pinterest, and Etsy as a trifecta to promote my textile business. Also Facebook, but hardly any sales through Facebook.
One thing about that I just want to mention too is that sometimes in these social channels, it's not necessarily to make a sale, but it's more to just get your awareness. And we all know that you want to be where people are that potentially would buy your work. So I'm not saying that in your case, Janine, that it would be wrong or right to do Facebook, but just think about, like, first of all, you have to think about your own able to manage these channels, and so you're right to prioritize. But don't underestimate sometimes just having a presence somewhere, even if it's directing people to your website. What we try to do at West for us is we redirect everybody to our website to get the information that they need. So it's just something to
and if you don't have a website, we highly, highly recommend you have a website, because if you have social media, those are platforms that are owned by other organizations or other companies, and so your website you own. So you want to really drive people from social media to your website so that you can get the most out of that. So awesome. I'm going to go ahead and end the poll today. Thank you so much for joining us, and I'm going to go ahead and close it. If you have any other further questions, or if you want to learn more about West Center, like I said, everything is on our website, and you can also email me. And I will be sending everything that you need from this webinar out today via email by the end of the day today. So thank you so much for joining us, and we will see you next time on next Webinar Wednesday.
Thank you, everyone. Bye-bye.
Have a great day.